Welcome to Golf and the Good Life, your guide to golf travel across the pond. I'm DJ Jones, he is Connor Evers, and today we are going to talk about AI and golf travel planning. But before we get there, Connor, man, it's great to see you. We've been on hiatus for roughly a month, maybe a little longer. Well, you and I had some pretty extensive travels. What's the latest and greatest on your side of the screen?
Deej, appreciate it. And yeah, welcome back to the podcast. It's good to see you as well. Great time overseas for myself. I know you had some good adventures as well. That's plural for adventures. But yeah, I was over across the pond in about 3 weeks, actually 3 weeks exactly, in Great Britain and Ireland. Spent 2 weeks in Ireland, 3 nights in England, and then 4 nights in St. Andrews. So whirlwind of a trip, but got to see Ireland in its full glory again. So it was a great time there. And all good here at HQ, just getting back from the trip and going through and kind of working with groups and finishing up some planning for 2026. There's still some availability out there, which is exciting. And we're really getting keen into the 2027 planning, specifically for those courses such as Muirfield, the Old Course, Royal Portrush, and Royal County Down, which are the big four overseas. So all good there, but an exciting time here around Thanksgiving as well and Christmas.
Yeah, man, great stuff. Got the holidays coming. The end of the year is just going to zoom by. It always does this time of year. And the little bit that I've heard about your trip, man, I can't wait to talk more about it.
Yeah.
We're actually going to cover that in our next episode, kind of go through, just everywhere you went. I was also over in England for about a week or so before my other trip to Japan. So a lot of golf and the good life to cover in the next episode. And so look forward to doing that. But in terms of this episode, we are talking about AI and golf travel planning. And, look, if you're in any kind of business, you can't go more than 2 or 3 minutes without hearing about AI. And we certainly don't want to add to that noise that's out there. I mean, just yesterday, NVIDIA had their earnings and their CEO said, AI is going everywhere, doing everything all at once. And that's kind of what it feels like if you're in business. And I will be the first to say, I am a very frequent ChatGPT user. It has made me better at my job. It's made me more efficient, more creative. I would say that it's almost kind of like having a second me that never goes on break and is available 24/7 and remembers all the things that I forget. But if you're in business, it's natural to think about, okay, well, what does this mean for our business? How does it impact us? And we're seeing the impacts of it every single day, both in the conversations that we're having with our members and so forth, and as well as, just how the business is evolving as a whole. And so I was doing like a lot of us and thinking about it. Hey, where are we going to be in 5 years? And I don't think anybody knows, because we certainly couldn't have predicted how fast it has changed in the last 2 years, maybe. But I did what any self-respecting AI user would do. I asked ChatGPT. I said verbatim, in this environment, what do you see as the key advantages of working with a golf travel company like HMB versus planning a trip with you, meaning AI? And the answer, Connor, was unbelievable. I mean, it was incredibly self-aware, maybe too self-aware. I mean, it's like, oh, maybe these doomsayers have a point after all, because this thing, granted, I use it so often, it knows a little bit of what I want to hear, but at the same time, I was like, holy cow, this is unbelievable as far as how honest and self-aware this thing is being, to the point that I immediately put it onto our blog, verbatim, what it wrote back. We'll link to that in the show notes. But I also texted you and I said, hey, we've got to cover this. So shift into covering it. From a planner's perspective, how is AI transforming things in both your conversations, what you're hearing from people? You're kind of the boots on the ground. What is the day-to-day impact of AI on golf travel?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a fun one that we'll chat about. But I would say when prospective travelers come to us for the first time, or even past travelers, they're in maybe looking at a different area or different region that they haven't been to yet, they're coming to us extremely informed because they're not going to us first. They're usually going to ChatGPT instead of us off the bat. And it's kind of interesting. And they're kind of getting a mold of which courses they can play, which are some maybe the top tier ones versus the second tier. And kind of that first conversation that we normally have, they're kind of already having it essentially. And it used to be before this, even in my time here at H&B, that someone would come to us with a blank canvas. They maybe want to go to this certain area. Maybe it's St. Andrews, for example, and they don't really know. They kind of have a little bit of idea how the guarantee times work. And now they're coming to us and they kind of have a blueprint of what they want, which is fantastic. It makes that first conversation a little bit easier, can flow a bit better. But again, ChatGPT is a great tool, but it doesn't give you the specifics of how these trips actually work and how they logistically can be routed. The tough thing is it can change the mindset. You may come into it being like, this is the plan. Like ChatGPT put it together, just you book it for me, essentially. That's kind of what we've gotten recently. And it just does not work that way. So again, they're coming to it as a mindset of this is going to work, and we're kind of the bad news berries if we're coming into it and saying that's just simply won't work. And I'll give one example of a few that we've had. I had a gentleman call in the office last week and was talking about the exact trip. It said, hey, here's the dates for 2027. These are the courses we want to play. And I'm like, okay, sounds like you have a pretty good idea. And since we've been having these conversations, I kind of know now what the conversation is and how they're getting this information just because of ChatGPT. He ends up sending the itinerary and it's directly from Chatty, which is, it's all good. But almost all the courses that were scheduled on that list are not available to visitors on certain days. One example of a few, there was a 36-hole day between Prestwick and Royal Troon on Saturdays. Prestwick is closed on all days of Saturdays. It's open. It's open Sunday through Friday for visitors, and then Royal Troon is only Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. So simply will not work. And then there was another one. I think it was Muirfield on a Friday, and Muirfield's only Tuesdays and Thursdays. So there's good things and bad things with it. Again, like I kind of go back to, they're extremely educated, which is fantastic. It takes a lot of those kind of initial conversations from the wayside, but there is a reality that comes to it of what is actually available. And that's why a golf tour operator such as H&B can get you in that right direction and tell you what's feasible and what's not based off of kind of your research with Chatty.
Well, that's a great point. And first off, I love that you're calling it Chatty. That tells me that I have rubbed off on you.
You have.
Chatty is what I call ChatGPT for those out there listening. I think my colleagues have heard me call it Chatty enough that I think everybody in the office has adopted that phrase. But that is a really interesting perspective that I hadn't really thoroughly considered in terms of how it changes the conversation. You go from, you mentioned that blank page, to now you're editing what ChatGPT has put out.
Yeah.
And that's a very different conversation because the first starts with everything that's possible. You're asking questions, you're finding out about the group, you're learning their goals, where they want to play, the different things. And that leads to different suggestions in and of itself. The other is, here's all the reasons why this won't work. And man, that's a defeating conversation that nobody wants to have at the very beginning of planning a trip. They're excited, they're ready to go. And like you said, you got to be the bad news bearer and tell them why it doesn't work. And that's just a totally different start to things that I hadn't really considered. I mean, because I see those itineraries all the time. I see every inquiry that comes across our desk, and you can tell when it's just been copy and paste, straight off of Chatty.
Yeah, and I'll add this too. Sometimes when you ask the question, what's the planner's perspective? I'll just be honest. There's times where I feel like I'm planning a trip against a computer and not with the member that's a potential customer of us, which is all good. It's how it works now, but it's not the natural conversation that used to occur. And again, kind of just planning a trip against a computer. That's what I'll add to.
No, that's a perfect way to put it. And look, this isn't us saying you shouldn't use it or beating down Chatty. I mean, we have adapted as we always have from day one in this business, and we recognize it is a great tool. And there are a lot of things that ChatGPT and other AI tools do really, really well. And to that point, here is verbatim how ChatGPT in its response to me started its readout of all the reasons to use a golf travel company. And it starts with, The reality is AI is a great researcher and ideator, but a terrible trip planner. That is what ChatGPT said about itself. And first off, I know Chatty wrote it because I wasn't entirely sure that ideator is a word, but that's what it used, and here we are. But the point is that it's like you said, it is a fantastic starting point. It can give you so many ideas. It can tell you what courses are the best ones that you should play in the area. It can tell you some of the quote hidden gems that you should consider. It can tell you the hotels. It can tell you the sites. It can tell you some restaurants. It can maybe give you some guidance on the time of year and the weather and maybe some big events if they happen every year in the town or area that you're going to. It can give you that 30,000 foot view of a trip. It's when you go to, to get into the nitty gritty that things can go sideways. I mean, I think the golf analogy that I would use is it's like going to the first tee straight from the parking lot, totally cold, versus you've been to the range, you hit a bucket of balls.
Yeah.
Okay, like congrats. If you had a fantastic range session, that's awesome. Doesn't mean a thing until you get out onto the course. And it's kind of no different here. But you're totally right. I mean, it's a totally different conversation when you're starting from a place of this should be the trip to a wide open canvas where let's create the best trip for you. I mean, if you're coming in with this is the trip, how many times have we seen an itinerary from Chatty where the old course is on Sunday? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. The old course is closed on Sunday. And so if you're starting from there, the thing's going to get blown up immediately. But if you're starting from a place of, okay, this is a trip that's theoretical, but how can I get the best trip possible? That's really the mindset that I think you have to apply when it comes to using this tool to your advantage.
You're so right. ChatGPT, it gives you a good starting point of what is potential. But we, such as H&B and frankly, all operators, we're giving you exactly what is in the realm of reality. We're working with the clubs to see what days are available for visitors. And it changes also. I mean, ChatGPT may also start getting a little bit better and figure some of these out. But each year it changes from what is available at certain courses and different times and stuff from that perspective too. So again, we're working with reality and working directly with clubs and hotels and what have you overseas. So what we put together is to the T and is exactly what's in reality. But also say when you're investing 4 to 5 figures, and sometimes in these cases for these trips, you're not going to want to just go off of ChatGPT and try and book in that trip. You're going to want to go from a trusted source such as H&B to book in that trip and make sure all is good and available and in reality. So I'd also, state the obvious too. ChatGPT, they do not have the relationships such as, knowing the general manager at Royal Counting Down, the driver host, the companies, the concierge of the hotels. The list goes on. I'm missing some. TG could probably fill me in, but they don't have those relationships that make the trip, what it is. Again, it's just a good starting point, and that's where we come in a factor and making the trip come alive.
Well, it's a great point on the investment. I mean, you're dropping 10 grand on a trip. You don't want to be beta testing an itinerary that ChatGPT has put out. And that's basically what you're doing. I mean, if you're running with something like that. And so all great points. And yeah, in the end, what we're really comparing this to is do it yourself versus the expertise of a golf travel company. And listen, we're not anti do it yourself. We have stated from day one that our goal with this podcast is for everyone to have a better trip, whether you plan it yourself, whether you go with a different golf travel company, or whether you travel with us, because we know the better your experience, the more people you're going to tell when you get home. And ultimately, that does benefit us. So this isn't anti-ChatGPT or anti-do-it-yourself. It's like you said, you need to know that the investment that you're making is not a beta test when it comes to a trip of this caliber and the expectations that you have coming in to a trip of this caliber. I think the other thing, back to your starting point, if you've ever used AI or ChatGPT, kind of that it doesn't ever tell you this is what you should do. It says, well, here are the courses in Scotland that most people play, but also here are some additional suggestions for that maybe you should consider. And so then you say, okay, well, here are the 5 courses I want to play. what do you think and what days should I play it? And it'll come back and say, well, here's what days I think you should play it, but also here's something else for you to consider as well. The point is, it doesn't ever just give you an answer and you're done. It's always leaving the door open for more. And Chatty even said it in its response to me. AI gives you more choices, not fewer. And so you're not moving the ball down the field. The whole field is kind of moving with you. You're not getting closer to that end result that you're looking for. Again, going back to the do-it-yourself versus a golf travel company. Verbatim from Chatty's answer. A captain can spend 20 hours planning with ChatGPT or 20 minutes on a call with H&B and have every detail handled. And you can apply that to any golf travel company. And so that's really what the difference comes down to here is, and this is a fantastic tool to get your ideas flowing, to get you excited, to kind of get you somewhat dialed in, but it is not the, this is the trip you should do. There is a reason why it says at the bottom of ChatGPT, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check the information.
Yeah.
and we're the ones that end up checking it a lot of the times and having to explain why it's incorrect. And it's not an easy position, but it's what we are working through every day. And in the end, the whole point is just guiding folks to a better trip and a better experience.
Yep, absolutely. So my eyes were a little off the camera here for a second. And the reason why is while you were speaking, I just went on ChatGPT, okay? Live, while we're on the podcast. And I just asked it, give me an itinerary for May 2027 that includes Muirfield and the Old Course and North Berwick and some other courses, 6 rounds of golf, okay? It did get it right that Muirfield is only on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it put North Berwick on Friday. Well, as of bookings for 2026 and going forward, North Berwick does not offer availability on Fridays anymore. So that's one strike. And there was a few other things in here that logistically, don't really make much sense. But
I feel like we could do an entire episode just having a conversation with Chatty and pointing out everything it gets wrong. And everybody would get tired of that pretty quickly. But I think there's a whole episode that could be done with just doing that.
But some final thoughts here. I mean, bring your own ideas and insight to the table of what you want. I mean, again, don't come into it thinking this is exactly what is going to happen and going to work. We'll have to just talk about it and kind of seeing what is reality and what we can actually book in. And, we often get these, full formed emails just sent to us directly of, hey, this is exactly what it is. And without really doing any research or saying, hey, we want to play 36 holes, 3/4 of the days we're there. And I don't even have any idea. We don't have any idea of what your type of group is. I mean, for all we know, I mean, you could have it could be 8 golfers with tourists and they don't play golf. And it's like, well, it's not fair to them for you to be out on the golf course all day for 36 holes. And there's driver hour logistics too. So I can go on some different tangents, but again, we're just coming from a piece of paper, but there's so much more that goes into the trip outside of the piece of paper. Itinerary that you may have already put into that makes the trip what it is, and it's those other touring sites and some other items that can make the trip. So again, come into it kind of open-minded a little bit. Not saying don't use it as a tool, but also be open-minded from that perspective, and I think you'll be pleased at the end result.
Well, what you said about bring your own ideas is huge because, like I said, I see all the inquiries that come in, and I can spot those Chatty copy and pastes a mile away. But I can tell you what none of them have. I don't want to say all, but most of them are lacking any kind of context and details about the group itself.
Yep.
Who are you? What's the makeup of the group? Are you celebrating a 40th birthday? What are your goals? Have you been over before? If you have, where did you play? It doesn't give you any of that. And so
what are your handicaps?
What kind of golfers do we have? Are you a bunch of scratch players, or do you need to play Cabot Highlands where it's extra wide? And so when you say, bring your own ideas, I think kind of what it comes down to is when you're working with a golf travel company, the more you can give them, the more you're going to get back. If you're giving them all of those details, sharing all of that insight, you're going to get more in return. If you're giving them, here's where we want to play, all you're going to get back is, here's why it doesn't work, or, okay, here's your itinerary, but without any additional context that makes the trip yours. And so bring those ideas. So use Chatty to get the ideas, to form your baseline, whatever it might be, but then supplement it with you. Supplement it with your insight, with what's important to you. And man, it'll make all the difference in the world. All right, well, this was a fun one, and we covered some serious ground. And yeah, we would love to hear your insight about working with AI and ChatGPT. If you've been planning a trip or have used it, go to our website, haversham.com/podcast. We've got a record a message feature there. Tell us about your experience or send us an email, golf@haversham.com. You can DM us on social media. As usual, we will link to the original conversation with ChatGPT that led to this entire episode in our show notes. And we will be back soon with the next episode about our recent travels and so forth. But until then, thanks for tuning in, and we wish you plenty of golf at its finest and life at its best.